Well, good morning, all. I see Jim Brown's picture there. Looks very, very wintry and very apropos. So I've seen that one online before. But yeah, the park can look pretty nice in snow, can it? So today we're going to go up north of New York, and we're going to head up to beautiful downtown Montreal. It's good to see you again, Harold. It's been a while. So for folks that haven't been on lately, what I've been doing is going into the to be processed list of photos, and so some of these are going to have scratches and dirt, and the colors are going to be off and everything. My trouble is now is I've gone into this, basically my workflow is I scan it, it goes into a file, and eventually I'll get to it. But last week when I did a bunch of the ones from New York, I kept saying, "Oh wow, that's a really great one. That's a really great one." So all week long, I've been restoring some of the ones you saw last week and having fun with that. I've also got a really great stack of 1939 World's Fair photos that I just about 5 minutes ago finished scanning the last of those. And whoever had that camera had about the crystal clear, sharp lens. It's really great because there's signage and you can read all the fine print. So I'm just, oh, do I restore more of the 64 ones so I can finish that folder? Oh, but this one from 39 is so cool. And what's really neat about the guy is he took some pictures of things at the 39 fair I've never seen before. So that's always kind of nice when you not looking. When Bill Young and I did our books on the 64 fair, Bill said, if I see one more picture of the Unisphere taken from the New York State Towers, I'm going to scream, because we're trying to figure out which one of the 200 or 300 do we use. And then you find something really esoteric, the foot massagers at the Hawaii Pavilion. Oh, that's got to go in the book because that's different. So, but yeah, this batch of stuff from the 39 fair was just great. But anyway, get back to the subject. Today we're going to go up to Montreal, and some of the pictures have been restored and some have not, and you'll very easily be able to tell which ones. So let me get here to share the screen. So we're going to start with Swan Lake. I'm going to basically start all, let me just get out of mail so it doesn't keep dinging me here and making the noise. And I'm going to wonder who's selling me something. So, okay. So anyway, back to this. We're going to start, we're going to go through a whole bunch of them from 67. And near the end, we'll get into some of the Man in His World, the 1970 days. I'll just do a disclaimer. At times, I will not remember the names of some of the artwork. There was so much artwork at Expo 67, most of it modern art. And the names, if I don't have it written down, I can remember where it is, but who did it or what it did. So I'll go through some of those. There's also a few pavilions that I look at and go, I don't remember that one because when we went there, it was with a group and you go where the group goes and then you go back in the later years, that pavilion's gone. So in some cases, I'm gonna have to go, ain't that pretty? And we'll move on. But anyway, Swan Lake, they had these jets out there aerating it, just like Meadow Lake in New York, that would tend to get covered with algae and stuff like that. So this made it look pretty nice. So Switzerland in the back, if you haven't seen it, this tower here was a wind-driven piece of sculpture. And when the winds came across the site, and if you've been to Montreal, you'll know they can get some wind comes off the Laurentian Mountains and across the seaway. This thing would turn at a very nice clip. It was kind of a neat thing to see. The place, the nations, the train station in the background there, the symbol of Expo in concrete. I believe that is still there. They've been redoing the area, but it's kind of a neat symbol that it's still there.
Bill, just real quick, I
Yeah,
thought they were rebuilding it, but
yeah.
they're not. I got, on the Expo 67 Facebook page, Roger LaRoche told me, because I was confused. They're not. They're just clearing the site.
Yeah,
Um,
I thought they were rebuilding it too. I mean, I saw
yeah,
the
no.
pictures of them tearing it
Apparently,
down. The
apparently that was
rotten
a
wood.
plan at one point, and I guess they either the funding or whatever, but I hope they at least save because that plaque or the one you just showed, that concrete plaque still looked good last time I saw pictures of it.
Yeah, Carol and I were up there about 45 years, about 5 years ago, and it looked okay then. It certainly
Right,
didn't look in any danger of falling over or anything. So
right.
I hope that they are able to retain that particular piece. But I did see the picture of the cranes lifting some of the wood out, and Yeah, the wood's supposed to be rectangular and the whole bottom right-hand corner is just rotted away, I mean, so some of the
Is
wood
that,
is definitely past salvage.
is that the train station behind it there?
Yeah,
Okay.
looks like a beautiful day in Montreal, doesn't it? Uh, I think I was lucky. All the days I was up there, the weather was pretty good, but this is at the United Nations Pavilion. Actually, this is also at the Place of Nations right here. So the different nations that are exhibiting. The torch. I don't think that's been lit in many, many years. I don't even know if that's still there. Do you know, Randy?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
And we go off to Deutschland, the suspended roof here, the mini rail in front of it, mini train rail in front of it. And there's one of the trains going by. So beautiful view of the United States Pavilion. Like I said, this is one that's not been restored. So well, Germany, this is the last one in this batch that I got to, and we'll get to these others. So it's only been waiting for, I don't know how many years, a bunch. All sorts of flags. So I tell you, if you were a flag vendor at Expo, you probably made a whole bunch of money. And outside the USSR, it's interesting to try some of these. I have the dates on, others not. But we were talking, I think, last week, the other day, about people going out with scarves. You don't see, like, if we look down here at the woman here, you
You
don't
know,
see.
they moved that entire pavilion and reassembled it in Moscow.
Yep,
Right.
it's over there. But you don't see too many people in scarves these days. But back in the 60s, my grandmother, I don't think went out of the house without a scarf.
Mhm.
The Metro Express crossing over the United States. Inside the United States, looking out. The biosphere, going there today is still impressive to see, but it's really too bad that they weren't able to totally restore the pavilion. But having seen that skin burn off once, I don't think anybody wants to see it happen again. And people getting ready to take the giant escalator ride. I read a memoir that one of these Marine guards did, saying it was the best duty you could have ever possibly have gotten in the armed services. So he said, you were over there, you had to wear your Class A uniforms, but surrounded by the pretty hostesses and friendly people. And he said, going over there after you came out of some of the other Marine Corps duties was, he said it was surreal. It took some getting used to that it wasn't a fairyland. They have a Gemini capsule on display. One of the nodes of all look how many pipes had to come together just in that one section there. And this is what caused the thing to burn when they were trying to weld some of these pipes to reattach them in later years. The welder actually set the acrylic cover. You can see the plastic shining down here.
But didn't they realize how flammable that acrylic was when they built it?
Apparently not. I mean, today you would never be able to build something like this. Hopefully not. They wouldn't let you, because there were no fire sprinklers or anything, and it just went up like a torch. I mean, it was like somebody putting fire to a gas-soaked rag. But
Mm.
back then, I guess nobody thought about it or tested it or whatever. Or if somebody did it, they kept their mouth shut because they had built the pavilion. And the parachutes that were going to come and get into use in the Apollo days, and one of the Apollo test capsules. You can see here over the blue area with a dot in it, some of these pictures look really good, and then they'll have for whatever reason, why did this one section get attacked by mold? Luckily, those are things that are easy enough to fix. So let's go into another folder here. So that was September 67. I did have the date on that one. So let me get the next batch. We're going to move just a little forward, August, and we're off to La Ronde, the amusement area, which is still there in a greatly modified version, but it's still keeping the Expo years. There's still the connection there. So I got a kick out of this one. You know, things change all over the world. You have the most high-tech stuff going on at Expo 67, you know, great movies and, you know, all the things that the USSR pavilion had with the you know, satellites and everything else. But you get here, you can, two and any red apple wins. So, you know, got a kick out of it. So you wonder how many of these people, I wonder if these gorillas still are sitting in somebody's house as their souvenir of Expo. I do
Why
have,
do all the stuffed animals have black faces?
they're gorillas. I guess that's what they did. You get a big dog behind it. I have pictures from Expo from Seattle of people with these giant dogs. That the games must have been fairly easy to win in Seattle because there's people with one of these under each arm. And the problem is, if you win one of these things, what the hell do you do with it? There's no locker you can get one of these things in. So if you win this, you got to carry it around the World's Fair for the entire rest of the day. And one thing that I read again, somebody was talking about, oh, they were winning these things. They had whatever knack. And he said it wasn't so much that they were interested in winning them, is that they were able to find some pretty girl in the crowd and you know, chat her up by giving her one of these giant dogs.
Creating one of these, I would let people win early in the day so they'd be a walking ad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we were in Las Vegas years ago. We went to a circus, and somebody had won something really big, and they realized they couldn't fit it on an airplane, and they turned around and asked our daughter if she wanted it. And I think it's still up in her room, but it was, you know, every now and then you get one of these things, you go, what the hell am I going to do with this? And just nice views from up there, I'm sure. This looks so similar to one of the rides that was at the 62 Seattle World's Fair. You know, theirs was the Voyage to the Moon. Here it's you know, obviously in French, but you know, the one up in Seattle was a huge hit and stayed there in the funhouse area for years after, or the amusement area for years after the fair ended. And it was one of those things became so old, so cliche that everybody went because they had always gone and they just wanted to keep going. And then unfortunately it's gone now. But you can read Seattle papers, people saying it was corny, it was worn out, and it was ours. Don't take it away. So I don't think I did this one when I was up there. And you could take your boat to Expo. You had to make reservations in advance. This guy looks like he came in a Chinese junk. So you wonder, I'll have to do some research and see if there's some story about somebody selling their own junk there. In the observation tower, the spiral.
From Switzerland.
Yeah, from Expo 64 in Switzerland. And just random stuff with a car race or something in the background. Now think how much we would all want to go here, right? Because you're going to get an Expo 67 souvenir. Well, I got a kick on this one because as we zoom in, you're going to say, oh, look at all the Expo 67 souvenirs. You can get your genuine Expo 67 Donald Duck, your Expo 67 Mickey Mouse, your Expo 67 elephant. There's nothing in here to me that says Expo 67 other than the sign. I mean, they're just all balloon animals. Over here, well, we could get an Expo 67 balloon, I guess. But I just got a real kick. You take anything, you know, generic carnival crap and stick an Expo 67 souvenir sign on it. And but you know, boy, it would be nice to be able to go back and get your own Donald Duck, wouldn't it?
Do you suppose those Disney characters were properly licensed?
Yeah, I matter of fact, years ago I was showed this picture of a friend of mine from Disney, and we joked about they were so off character that probably not. I mean, the eyes in Donald are rather big. Mickey doesn't look too bad up there, but you know, and these you wonder, did everybody remember he had the balls that had sand or something in it, and you'd shake them and they'd make a like a rain type noise. I just wondered if these had it in there. The Expo Express train. And back over near Fort Edmonton, you can just see the sign up here, the stockade.
Shame they didn't leave that express train out to the islands. It's since been removed.
What's that?
They removed that train out to the islands. It's kind of a
Well,
shame they
yeah,
didn't.
it ran and then it sat there for years and years, and they moved it to the port of Montreal, and it was supposed to be sold to somebody else, and it eventually was scrapped. If you see the movie Quintet, very one of the strangest movies ever made, by Robert Altman, and it starred Paul Newman. They go through a scene. The whole world is not gone global warming; they've gone global cold, and everything's covered in snow and ice. And they go into the Metro Express station, and the train is still sitting in the station. It's all covered in snow. What was interesting was that year, for whatever reason, was warmer than usual in Montreal, and they didn't have as much snow. So you're doing a movie about all this snow, and you have no snow. So they covered up the logo on the train with spray on snow, so you didn't see the Expo 67 logo sitting in the front of it. But yeah, it has the honor of being the first totally computerized automated train system, and was really ahead of its time, and unfortunately just got sold for scrap. Okay, let me go to the next folder here.
Yeah, just some background on the Expo Express, that part of the route on Ile Notre Dame by the German pavilion, that was removed for the rowing basin for the 76 Olympic Games. So that resulted in the demolition of a number of the pavilions that were still around.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a real shame that they did that. I think one of the bridges in that area still goes across the river, and it just dead ends at somebody's factory or something at the other side. Because they cut it off, and now you've got this bridge to nowhere because that basin was
Yes.
split through. So if you go to Montreal today, you can go to the casino, which in the Expo days was the French Pavilion. So if you go there, there's no sign that I could see inside that it was any way related to the World's Fair. But Carol and I had a pleasant enough time, waging a giant $20, getting up 100, back down to zero. The typical, anybody that goes into a casino thinks you're going to come out rich. Surprise. But it was just, for me, a thrill to be inside it again. I'm really glad that the pavilion is still there. And looking out from the US, I wonder, the ladder here, was somebody fixing something, or is that part of their emergency exit for the mini rail? I don't know if it was part of the exit, how you get from here down to there. That the old saying, watch out for the first step, it's a Lulu. And they had all sorts of displays on actual space equipment, like the Gemini capsule we saw earlier, and mock-ups here of the astronauts from Apollo. The Great Britain Pavilion, in later years, the Union Jack was taken off and it became the Pavilion of Montreal. Czechoslovakia is one of the big hits of Expo 67, and we're going to see a bunch of the glasswork that was inside of it. What's interesting, if you look over, just like Irv mentioned the USSR pavilion, they took it apart and took it back to Moscow. They took out basically all the Soviet pavilions came out. And they took out the Czechoslovakia pavilion and moved it, but for whatever reason, they did not take down the staircase. And in later years, it just stood up there, and people could go up, climb the staircase, and use it as an observation, platform to take other pictures. But it's very, very strange to think you spent all the time and money to take out this entire pavilion, and you left the staircase 2 stories up, just sticking out in midair. Here's Copernicus. I believe we're going to see him from the front side. When they built these structures for Expo, they were basically going to be all put together with bolts and everything. And then they realized that there were not that many bolts in Canada to be able to build it, so they had to start welding it together. Just amazing when you start thinking about the logistics. If you go to build something like this and you need 27,000 bolts of whatever, 2 inches thick or something, you can't take into account that somebody's just going to have them in stock for you. Here's Copernicus. So I don't know if I haven't looked at this one and we can see much on the signage. No, when I sharpen up, maybe you'll read more about it. But anyway, he's here telling us all his theories. Air Canada, based on a Leonardo da Vinci concept for a helicopter. Bell System, I did a talk in the last 2 weeks on Disney and mentioned all their Circle Vision films, and this was a big hit for Canada. They still use parts of the footage from this today. One of the biggest things was when the Royal Canadian Mounted Police all come riding into a field and surround the camera in a big 360-degree loop. And I found this to be this Expo 67 version to be the best of the Circle Vision films that Disney has done for Canada. I think it was really well done.
Bill, that pavilion was also rebuilt in Vancouver.
Yeah.
As the phone company pavilion. There was a similar Circle Vision film inside. I'm not sure if it was a edited version of the one from '67 or.
Yeah, it was edited. Yeah, and in Vancouver is the sponsoring phone company by that time was now Telecom Canada. So Bell Canada no longer existed, just like Bell System got broken up here. But yeah, they did do an update version of it. What was interesting was they showed this here in for a number of years. Then it went away and they put something else in, and then they did a big thing. They brought it back for one season of Man in His World, and then they updated it for what you call it for Vancouver. I still like that. I said this version, whatever. I when we were doing Epcot, I mentioned on other talks, we built a temporary Circle Vision theater inside. I think it was stage 2 in Burbank, and it was really neat that they could go and pull out all the old Circle Vision films to see what they had done and what worked and what didn't work. So one day we'd show this one day they'd show that one. The original Circle Vision, or they call it Cinerama, was 11 cameras, and then they switched to 9. And this was one of the 9-camera versions. But it was just really neat to be standing in Burbank and thinking back to when I'm 15 years old up in Montreal. It was kind of cool. More Swan Lake. Calder's giant mobile or stress, not a mobile, this one. It's a giant sculpture, I guess.
Yeah. And it's been moved recently to the north side of the island, so you can see it from downtown Montreal.
I understand that they did it and everything, but it sure threw me off when we went back to back to the site a couple of years ago. That your brain just says it's here, but you look and it's over there. It was just it's just sort of a weird vibe that it gave off. Everything that I knew in my head was wrong. It's not where it's supposed to be. So it'd be like going to New York and finding they moved the Unisphere to the other end of the park or something. So if you do go and watch the movie Quintet, they did all sorts of filming up on all these walkways here. They also show up in Battlestar Galactica, where they're and I've got pictures of this on my website, where they're an ancient ruined planet, and that they're wandering through the ruins here, the theme structures. The Caddy Maybic. I think we all know what that is. The People Tree, mentioned in prior talks, and I think we're going to see a picture of it in this Expo in the 1970 version. When they signed all the contracts to put people's pictures up on the People Tree, they were for Expo 67. And much to their surprise, they had to put it all clear, empty panels in for later years because they couldn't go and get all the rights to everybody back to put their pictures on it for later years. You wonder if you had your picture up on one of these, if you got to take it home or, where it went. It'd be kind of neat, wouldn't it, to have that as a souvenir of the fair? And just a general view out looking from the top of the Caddy Maybic across the site. This really gives you a good perspective of just how big that French pavilion was. I mean, still is, but I mean, this building is still here. It's not open to the public, but it's used as a service facility for the casino.
And unfortunately,
they replaced the windows there. They used to be the clear blue reflecting. Now they're gold.
I was going to say that it looks so chintzy now.
It does, doesn't it? I mean, I loved it back then. It kind of reflected the sky and everything and gave you more of an open feeling. The gold also looks like it's, and gold doesn't tarnish, but it looks like it has oxidized or something. So it looks like old and kind of worn to me. Here's the people tree. Again, down below you have the pictures of the people. Up here just empty, but you'd go in, there were sights and sound because they also recorded sounds of, you know, Canadian villages and people talking. And as you went through and walked through the area, you got different snippets of the soundtrack. I love this op art plaza down below, all the chairs set up for a concert. Maple leaf flag was still new at this point in time, so it was a big change for Canada. All right, we'll go and get into another batch here. We're going to go even earlier in the year. We're in June now, so this is where I say, okay, on some of these pavilions, I have to start doing some research. And if I looked at the signage, maybe I could remember it. It's one of those things, I remember seeing this, but I don't remember where it is. So does anybody, Harold, or anybody remember which pavilion? Randy? Which,
Yeah.
let's see if we zoom in the signage if it tells us anything. Nope. I'll figure it out eventually. That's the nice thing about Facebook, though, is you can put something out there, and within 17.7 seconds, Roger will come back and tell you exactly where it was. And,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, the guy's knowledge of Expo 67 is unparalleled. And again, I still thank him so much for all the help he gave me on my book. Like I said, all sorts of different sculptures.
That sculpture is now in Calgary. And
This one?
not that one, the other one, this one. It's been there for years. I used to fly Calgary layovers all the time back in the late 70s, early 80s. And we used to drive by it all the time. I never realized that it was from the British Pavilion. And it was until probably about 5 years ago I discovered that.
Oh, wow. Is it outside in the park or something?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I believe this is Czechoslovakia. This is, I mentioned before, the pavilion is very popular. And one of the things, you know, living in the United States at the time, I had no idea that glass was a big thing from Czechoslovakia, but they had quite a display of artwork and things that were done in glass. And if you zoom in on it, you can just see, you know, all, I don't know how many pieces of glass it takes to put together some of these things, but they were rather remarkable. Another sculpture. Roger Roach, for people that don't know him, did a massive catalog of all the sculptures at the Expo 67. So whenever I'm restoring one of these, I'll get out his catalog and just go through it and finally put the name to it. Kind of gives you an idea there of the size of it, doesn't it? It looks like it'd be one big expensive piece of metal. I believe this is inside, if I remember right, I think this was Australia.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I got one right. Habitat was supposed to be about 5-6 times the size of it. And, you know, like everything else, you can sketch out everything on paper and then run out of money. But all this empty space here was all supposed to be other cubes of habitat. So amazing structure. It's you know, when it was put in, everybody kind of poo-pooed it, and now it's become very pricey and wanted real estate for Montreal.
And there are architect-driven or architect-led tours of the Habitat complex that you can get generally from April to October, and it's about $50. But that was on my bucket list, to be inside the Habitat structure. Otherwise, it's private property now as a condo. But they do take you into what was the Commissioner General's cube, his suite. And then it was belonged to Moshe Zafti, the architect, and he donated it to the city, and that's included inside on the tour. And you wear these sort of felt slippers on the wooden floor so that you don't damage the floor. But they do joke that the visitors to it end up polishing the hardwood floors there.
Yeah, was that the same one they used for tours during the time Expo was open?
No, that was used for the Commissioner General for all his diplomatic receptions and so on.
Right, because I remember, you know, that they had one that
It's a
they gave
penthouse
tours.
suite.
Yeah, they had the one that they did give tours of during the time Expo was open. And it'd be interesting to think that, you know, my humble little place here has had whatever, 38 million people walk through it.
Yes.
But yeah, I understand that people that lived there found out buying this and living there during Expo was not as much fun as they thought, because they had to get passes for their maids and everybody to come in and everything. If your friends wanted to come and visit you, this was inside the Expo grounds, so your friends had to get a pass or pay admission to come in and see it. And plus, you can imagine if you're living there, like there was one person that told a story in the newspaper how they were sitting in the unit and somebody knocked at the door and they said, "Look, I've got to catch a flight. I don't have time to wait on the line. Can I just look around your place before I go?" You know, just think about living in a World's Fair exhibit. You know, it's I think it'd be fun to visit a World's Fair. I don't think it'd be fun to live inside a World's Fair, but
Harold,
Wait.
do you know if that Commissioner General's unit is still in the original interior decor?
Yes, they did restore it back to the original.
Because yeah, there was a
finishes.
lot of very groundbreaking, like prefab bathrooms and
Yes.
kitchens, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Exactly.
yeah, I read that one of the big problems they had was getting the kitchen appliances to, okay, must be mail time. One of the big problems is getting some of the kitchen appliances because so many people had remodeled things over the years.
The comment about the visitors polishing the floor reminds me, I once visited a Rodin exhibit in California, and they allowed visitors to touch the sculptures through a polishing cloth.
Do you have any idea how the elevators work with all those offset boxes?
Yes, actually, it was an idea of Moshe Safdie, the architect, that the elevators did go up, but only stopped at every third floor. And what he wanted was that people would interact on what he called the internal streets, that you'd get off at a floor and you might have to walk up one flight or down one flight. But he wanted everybody to congregate near the elevators and get to know each other better and be more of a community.
Yeah, we wanted to take the tour when we were there the last time, but they were sold out way
Yeah.
before we got there. So
They
it's
do have them
definitely-
in French and in English.
Yeah, I would have even taken it in French. I mean, just to see there and
Just to
soak up
see it,
the
yes.
ambience. So
No, it was terrific.
yeah, no, it's I'm hoping to get back up to Montreal this coming summer, and or actually it's coming fall. I'm going to be in New York in early September, and I hope to get up there then. I don't know if they're still doing it in September or not.
Generally, right up until October.
Oh, okay. Well,
So worth checking their website.
yeah, I'm gonna have to start that, definitely try to book that in advance. So back to Swan Lake. You can see, by the way, a lot of these take on a really blue tint. This one, what I do is I scan them twice, once with no color correction on, like this one, and this one has preliminary color correction. So I'll go back and what happens with the Nikon scanner is really, really good, but when you have a lot of blue and you scan a slide like this and you turn the color correction on, for whatever reason, all of a sudden it starts turning all the water brown and the sky brown. So on certain ones, you just realize I have to do it all manually. Others you can start getting an assist. Thailand at night.
That's from New York.
Yeah, this part was in New York, and then they added on, they expanded. It was a much bigger pavilion for Expo 67. But yes, this was the central one for New York. And this one I just got a kick. I love these street lights. If somebody were to make one of these that I could put in my backyard. Actually, I keep wishing somebody would make one of these as a desk lamp. I mean, I think it would be just great. But since I have no mechanical skills whatsoever, it won't be me.
Somebody I think that lives in Montreal has, I think, recreated one. Harold, do you know?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
and they've also got one in one of the civic museums,
Oh, right.
which
Yeah.
is
Right.
in one of the old fire halls.
What's so sad is I have pictures of the Man of His World days with probably 200 of those lamps laying in a pile at the old helipad. And it was like, they just threw them out. I mean, you just, whoever was the administrators of the park at the time, if they just put them up for sale, come and buy one for $50, they probably would have sold them by the ton. But everybody probably said, oh, they're made with fiberglass and they're going to cause all this issues. And, it's not worth the liability. So let's just throw them all away. So. He's lazing, taking his time over there at the Israel Pavilion. Iran, all that beautiful tile work. To me, when you see the current going out here, it just shows how hard this must have been to be building these islands. I mean, to me, you come up with a barge and a thing of dirt, and you drop it in there with that amount of water, it's going to go through. And I believe they built a temporary copper dam and rerouted some of the river and did other stuff like that. But the engineering aspect of building these islands and these bridges and everything, just, what an undertaking. I mean, the city leaders of Montreal at that time really, I mean, visionary, I think is too weak a word for them. They really, I challenge people other places of the world to think that, we're going to have something like this, and let's just go rebuild the geography of our city to accommodate it. And that made me appreciate Expo all the more.
And considering that they didn't even know they were going to have the fair until, was it like mid '63?
Yeah.
Moscow had originally been awarded the '67 World's Fair, but for whatever reason decided not to carry on.
Yeah, no, they had a heck of a task to do in a short period of time. And let's see, in this particular one, I don't know which pavilion she's in. Again, maybe Roger can tell us. He'll probably even tell you what the dinner menu was. Looking out, I'll be able to fix some of this with fixing all the stone blocks here, bring them back down in brightness. Now there, doesn't have to look the way it should look, without that chintzy gold gold
Right.
on.
And all that water has been, that's all been filled in, I
Yep.
believe.
Yep.
So it doesn't have that impression of floating like it did then.
No, I mean, look at the way of reflecting the sky back and everything. I mean, it had a certain design aspect, and it's still there, but United Nations. And again, you can see one of the street lights, the lights bounced up and reflected off. So it's rather soft, diffused lighting throughout the site. Well, this one I just did an example of here of how the scanner can do two different things. This is the let's do it without anything setting on. And then the next one is, oh, let's turn on the automatic scanning within the automatic correction within the scanner. What I'll probably do is go back and look here at this area, how blown out this gets here. And you can see stuff here. What I can do is try to restore some of this on the in Photoshop, but what I can do at times is say, okay, I can now grab this area here and paste it into this picture here, and then end up with the equivalent of what they call HDR scan now. So that's what I'll do with a lot of these is try, like I said, try to salvage some of this and put it together. So in my spare time. Back to the USA. Again, you wonder, where did this giant USA banner go? You just hope this stuff survives somebody in somebody's house. He's at a pretty good sized house, I guess, to put that, but I'd like to think it's folded up in somebody's attic.
I would guess that's probably, I mean, if it was saved, probably stored in Washington, D.C. somewhere.
You
Wow.
hope. Yeah, it's like next to the Raiders of the Lost Ark, right?
Yeah.
I imagine stuff like the Warhols and stuff shown up someplace. Just a kind of different angle looking down the side of the Iran Pavilion. And again, one of the sculptures. This one, I don't know the name of this sculpture. It's kind of interesting because it looks like she's been in this solid block of metal and it's just ripped herself out as on the go. I'm not
Actually, a
the
Canadian artist. It's called Walking Woman,
uh-huh.
and it's by Michael Snow,
Oh wow. Okay.
SNOW.
Do you know where this is today?
I don't know, but there are similar ones elsewhere in Canada that he did a number of these series.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of modern art, but this one I really got a kick out of. I mean, to me, it just was a tremendous stroke of imagination to come up with the idea of doing this. Let alone the execution of it. But I just looked at it and said, man, I've never seen anything like that. Well, thanks for the information. Walking woman, huh?
Yep.
Great. No idea who or where this one is. Looks sort of dolly-ish, doesn't it? Let's see if we look over at the picture here. Nope, not going to be able to read that. So, but it's different. It's all looks three-dimensional. I'm trying to recall which restaurant this one is. Not entirely sure.
Might be the one in the Canada Pavilion.
Think so? Yeah,
Possibly.
could be. All right, we'll go into another set of folders here so that we say goodbye to June of '67.
Oh, and by the way, the restaurant building of the Canada Pavilion is still standing and is used for some special events
Yeah,
as an event space.
when we were there, it was closed off, but you could look through the window. It's just basically a big empty room with some tables stacked to the side.
Mhm.
What's the other one that's there? Is it one of the Caribbean?
Jamaica.
Jamaica, yeah.
Yeah. They just
Yes.
rebuilt it recently, I believe.
Yeah.
When we were there, they were setting up tables, it looked like for a wedding reception. So when we went by, they were getting ready. It was just some general nighttime views. As Irv mentioned, this was Thailand for New York, and they added this whole other section out here in this royal barge. It was unique to Expo.
Wonder where it was stored in the interim.
Good question. Yeah, I mean, for the number of years in between, well, it didn't have too long. I mean, it came down sometime in '66 and went up in '67, so
Yeah.
probably a storage crate somewhere. Originally, after Expo '67, it was supposed to go back to Thailand, and then they, obviously kept it for Mana's World. And this was all covered in 24 karat gold leaf. So when Mana's World finally ended and this thing was taken down, I wonder what became of it. By then, I'm sure the building itself was pretty worn out, but I'd be out there with my penknife scraping all the gold off it. Look at all the people on the Cosmos Walk. I mean, wow.
Can you imagine this man only had huge building and shipping it around the world?
Yeah. Well, so many of the countries did that. I mean, they take these things, put it in crates and put it on a ship and take it back overseas. You hope you didn't leave one part behind.
Now, that particular bridge has been rehabilitated and it no longer has those cables.
Yeah, it's interesting. I read an article about it, and they said that they found the cables were superfluous and
Yeah.
they were actually damaging the bridge. That as the wind came through here, it was causing flexing of the bridge, and that by taking the cables off, the bridge is thought to be stronger now.
Mhm.
It's too
So
bad 'cause it looks better with the cables for
it
sure.
does look better with the
They're very
cables.
elegant.
Yeah. But it's again when they built it was the Neck Bridge in New York. They built the bridge and they ended up having problems where it was swaying a little bit, and they said it wasn't the Neck, it was the Bronx Whitestone Bridge. It was swaying a little bit, so they decided that, oh, we'll put these barriers on it and then we'll stiffen it. And they put them on there, and turned out it made it worse because the wind as it came through there was hitting it. So by taking the stiffening barriers out, it made the bridge better. And that's evidently same conclusion they came to with these cables. But I tell you, we walked across the bridge when we were there and, looked down in the water. For people that have not been to Montreal since Expo 67, it's really great to go and just wander around the site. So Calder in his original area, and down below there was a restroom facility. We're on the mini rail, which you can see or the mini train, you can see the pipe structure holding up the roof, looking down at the lake. The skyline of Montreal has changed more than just a little, so it's kind of interesting to go back and you can still pick out certain aspects of it, but other things, wow, the city has really grown. More of habitat. Massive amounts of wood went into some of these pavilions. It's this one I get a kick out of. I don't know if they're curtains or whatever, but at first thought it looks like it's metal discs, and then you realize it's printed on the curtain they can go across. But look at the the decorations of the 60s. How many of us, everybody raise your hand if you have bright orange living room furniture today. Again, if you go on my site, you can see all these in the late, or I guess it was about mid-70s, the shots of these when they filmed them for Battlestar Galactica. And I've got to go back to Roger's catalog.
You might have been able to read that placard that was below it.
Oh, let's give it a try.
It's fairly sharp. Just says a construction company, it looks like.
Yep.
Yeah.
Grand Construction 66 Volton. That might actually even be the name of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what's really great is, some of these people had nice cameras and you can pick up amazing amounts of details in some of these things. And in this one, you can say, okay, what on earth, caused these splotches or whatever to appear on the stone and, whatever. Looks like something, got in chemicals or whatever, but, that's where I get into the thing. What I'll probably do in both, do this as two versions. I'll keep it as it really existed, and then I'll probably clean up the stone as it was when Expo opened, just to make it look nicer. But, I don't know, maybe some kid threw his chocolate shake at it. Pop art being a big deal in the 60s. People out for a gondola ride, passing by Israel. Well, this one I really got a kick out of. This was in the Ontario Pavilion, and I just love these dolls. This picture was in really bad shape, and this is one I was able to bring back. But I just got a real kick out of the simplicity of this, with again all the modern stuff outside and everything. But they're welcoming me in to come and see Ontario and learn more about the people of the province. And I just, like I said, there's certain pictures or certain things for whatever silly reason, I just say this one's worth going down in the rabbit hole and trying to salvage it. More of the site. One view from the Caddy-Mavic looks much like another view from the Caddy-Mavic until you look straight down. This is part of the Canada Pavilion here. I just like this one, the look of the sun on the water. And inside the Caddy-Mavic, this was a kinetic sculpture. Here's the walkway going over to, what is that, Quebec, the one that's been redone.
I think it was genius to run the mini rail underneath that waterfall.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of neat, and you can still see some of the arches and stuff are still out there, but obviously the rail and everything else is gone. Like I said, op art was real big. So some prediction in 1999. I wish the rest of the sign was visible so we could see what they're telling us the future was going to bring. Okay, go to another folder. So it was still in July of 1967. Back to La Ronde. What's interesting is, they had those light fixtures, the ones I've gushed over throughout the fair site, but over in La Ronde, they had totally different lights over there. More of the sculptures, and they had rose gardens. I mean, it was very pleasant if you got tied up in the hubbub and the noise of everything of Expo, to be able to take a walk through some of the rest of the island and just get away from it all and kind of decompress. I hear you. Come on over if you want. The dog, by the way, we heard the dog before going out. The dog loves our mail lady, and when we open the door to bring in packages, the dog is an escape artist and races right past everybody and runs into the mail lady's truck, because if she's really, really lucky, the mail lady will drive her to the next house and let her come back. But we have a temporary mail person every now and then, and their first thought is when the dog goes shooting at, and the dog's small, but it comes shooting at the door, you can think that, oh my God, the dog's going to bite me or anything. And it runs by and gets in the truck, and I figure, what the hell do I do about it? So I think she's upset she did not get to go in the truck today. This is a kind of interesting contrast to me. The United States had obviously a big section, the whole upper level, about the space program. But down below, you had Raggedy Ann and Andy dolls and things about the American electoral system and, Andy Warhol artwork and everything. And then you go over to the USSR, and this picture of Lenin that they've used a sort of visage in so many of their pavilions. So you first walk in, and the guy just does not look friendly at all. I mean, it's just brutal to me. And the USSR pavilion was very, very impressive architecturally, but I found the exhibits inside to be absolutely sterile and uninteresting. I mean, all sorts of things about underwater mining, and this here is a representation of factories and power grids across Russia. I didn't feel that it did anything to, this is right at the height of the Cold War, of course, but I didn't feel this did anything to make me say, oh, those guys got a good idea over there. No, did anybody else enjoy the USSR pavilion? To me, it was harsh. Like I said,
Bill, during the Cold War, during Brussels, at the Brussels World's Fair, Expo 67 and Expo 70, the Cold War brought on this competition between the US and the USSR to build, who could build the biggest or most opulent pavilion. And by Expo 70, USSR actually went more for soft sell.
yeah.
I mean, it was still definitely, exhibits of how wonderful communism was, but I know at Expo 67, the US pavilion got a lot of criticism for its soft sell. Like you say, Raggedy Ann dolls and all that. Because you walked over to USSR and it was all this industrial might kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was interesting. Looks like I said, this is from the USSR, an exhibit of a refinery or some chemical complex. To me, I probably wouldn't have gone with the Raggedy Ann dolls or anything, but I still thought it was a friendly or welcoming more environment, as opposed to, let's go over here and we'll show you how we frack, chemicals. And you can see, sometimes you're going through a window and you can get reflections. Other times you just pick up the random junk on it. But luckily, Photoshop, those will all someday go away. These are all through a window, so you see stuff here. Inside the USSR pavilion, you can see the framework of the windows here. And again, more the same view as before, different angle. Their power grid, Lenin, satellites. They did have some interesting stuff in here, softer side. I think there's some pictures coming up of folk dancing, and they had some stuff which, of course, again, I didn't understand, Russian poetry and other parts of their art. So they did have some cultural aspects as opposed to just industrial. I was very disappointed. This looks very large and metallic, doesn't it? Well, it was all plywood, just covered with panels, but it did the job. tile mosaic floor. No idea which this piece of artwork is, no idea which pavilion, but again, you stick it on Facebook and somebody's gonna come up with the answer. Unless Harold knows this one too, like you knew the moving gal.
Unless maybe Czechoslovakia.
I'm guessing Czechoslovakia because the next one in it is glass as well, and this looks like it's all sort of glass. It kind of reminded me of the Chihuly sculptures if you go up to Seattle today. Which again, I'm not a particular art lover. Carol is the
Yeah,
big
it looks like a
family.
pile of deformed bottles, doesn't it?
What's that?
It looks like a pile of deformed bottles.
No, it's just glass shapes. If you get up to Seattle, though, the Chihuly Museum is one I really recommend. I really enjoyed taking the tour through there. But again, more Czechoslovakia, all this glass work that they did there. This is again just several different pictures, the same thing. I've tried the scanner in different settings. So you just have a raw setting. They have this one called enhanced, and you can see it brings up some of it. You can bring up some more. You know, like I said, I'll play with it and decide what I want to do to, you know, keep parts of it. Big long line for people going to see the Kodak Pavilion. Was nowhere near the size of the New York one, but this was done by Kodak of Canada, and they would come in and help you learn how to use your camera.
It's interesting when you're looking at some of these pictures, like the striped tents. They were put in after because they discovered that there was nowhere near enough food facilities.
Yep.
And they had to just go in and start putting stuff in.
Yep. Yeah. Again, I'm not sure what the S is.
It's
Steinberg's.
Steinberg, right?
That was a grocery chain that
Okay.
no longer exists.
Oh, okay. Well, that's why I'm glad to have some Canadian, you know, presence here, because to me, you know, we had S for Safeway markets, but okay, that's great. Yeah, you wonder how many people, you know, saw all of a sudden an opportunity. Hey, let me go and put up something here and sell hot dogs and hamburgers, and I can make a bunch of money because look at all these people. I mean,
I think the Expo Commission went to people and said, "Hey, we need more food facilities. Would you? We've got an empty lot here. Would you be willing to fill it in for us?" Have you heard that, Harold? Something along those lines? I mean, I know I have a great magazine. I can't remember. It's an interior decorating magazine. Got it upstairs. And it's one of the best written Expo articles. It was the author went to Expo during the press preview, and she mentions she has a whole paragraph about how food facilities were just woefully lacking. There just weren't enough of them, and how the Expo people were looking for people to come in and fill in where they had an empty space to build something.
they didn't have their version of the brass rails, right? That one giant master lessee for snack bars.
Are those the early men and woman restroom symbols?
Yep.
The ones that everybody confused?
Well, I got a kick out of this because you build all this wonderful stuff, right? And there's the lights and the buildings and everything, and the dumpster.
I think that also had to do with the higher than expected attendance. They just didn't have, they hadn't planned for the number of people they were getting.
Yeah. But this was the first big thing with pictographs, and they've changed, obviously.
I think these are the redone. Harold, do you know the history of those?
Yes, those are the redone.
Those are the redone ones?
Yeah, because the original one, it was hard to tell the difference between the man and the
very
woman.
Confusing.
Yeah.
And just the whole concept of pictographs.
Yeah.
Was brand new.
Back then, what is the things you take for granted today, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, the things that strike in mind. You talk about being confused. I've got pictures. Carol and I go out to Santa Monica, and they've got the pier there and everything. But they have a picture of a sign and they have the pictograms: the men's room, the ladies' room, and another one says men's urinals. And I keep saying it doesn't just say urinals; it has to say men's urinals. You just wonder who could put some of these things together.
Bill, there are versions of women's urinals now. I read an article about it. How they work, I have no idea, but
Wow. Yeah, I still remember, thank God for the pictograms though, because when I first made my first trip to Tokyo, right, I get off the airplane, go through customs, and I walked in, to the men's room, and I thought I got it wrong because I'm there using the urinal, and it took a little adapting to the fact there's a woman scrubbing the next one with a brush,
oh,
but I was like, God, did I pick? Well, no, because my first thought was, I've gone in the ladies' room. No, the ladies' room wouldn't have urinals. What the hell is she doing in here? But
well, that's like Europe's the same way. They've
yeah.
got little ladies, and you're supposed to tip them as you
Yeah.
walk out.
But pictograms have saved my butt in many a country in trying to figure out where to go. So I am very glad that they put them in. Nice view up here. Again, I will try to do what I can to restore some of the mechanism, but I just thought this was nice to capture the manufacturer's plate on the mini rail. Back over to the United Nations. And I think we have one more folder to go. Oh, this one, I mean, a kind of interesting folder here. This one I just got a kick out of. Somebody made their own titles for their slideshow, and I just thought people might get a real kick out of the amount of effort they put into doing it. So you get one of these tea towels that that back in the '60s, everywhere you went, somebody would sell you a tea towel, and he's got his Expo passports off to the side. These are kind of out of order, so we're at day 7. But his first day, it was really interesting because written on the edge of the slide was "Bring a lot of this." So he got a real kick out of Expo, but he's talking, bring a lot of the money. So, but been a long time since you've seen some of this money, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, now you got to go for your loonies and toonies and all the other stuff. But Expo, I think, wasn't it the first one to go really big in the passport stamps?
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, maybe the very first. Right?
Yeah. So Roger again has a great guide to all the passport stamps, and there were some of them that were very hard to get because they were very small pavilions, or they didn't have them when Expo first opened, and then realized they needed to get in on it. So, but you can see the stamps up there for Fort Edmonton and that, and became a real big thing. So go back and relive your journey through the passport. And we have ticket here for taking a train or bus ride up in Montreal. Like I said, I see what the little ticket is over here.
Yeah, 23 cents a
Yeah,
ride.
and this I believe was for the train, the metro.
That was the transfer
Right.
that you got that from a machine just inside after you paid your fare. Then you could get a transfer, which would then allow you to transfer to a service bus at your destination.
Right.
Made great bookmarks as well.
I'm not sure what the symbol, the significance of the German book is, but he's got some stamps and everything, postage stamps and passport stamps. And so, this is probably a passport. And he's
I have this book, I think.
Really?
Well, I don't know if it's, I mean, my father had the book of Max und Moritz, and
Mhm.
I have the book, but I'm not sure it looks exactly like this.
Oh, we have to find that. I'd love to see that.
I think it might be in my night table. I'll take a look.
Oh, okay. Maybe the next time we get together, we can show everybody the whole thing. Do you remember what the story's about?
It's 2 bad little boys, as far as I know. Buben Geschichte. It I guess stories of boys or brothers, maybe. I can't read the little words.
They look like bad boys.
Yeah.
But they were bad boys, I think. They got into trouble a lot.
Oh, so they put me and my brother in a book. I didn't know that.
I
Yeah.
have to go look and see if I can find that.
What a small world. I mean, Carol and I have only been together 49 years. I had no idea she had this book. The things you learn, the mysteries of life. Wow. I think she's running off to go get it. That's funny. And then some of the places that they ate. Again, some of these restaurants, I don't know if they'll still exist, but China King, the king of Chinese food. You know, we went to it when we were in Montreal a number of years ago, about 15 years ago. We went to a Chinese buffet in Montreal. That was the best Chinese restaurant I've ever gone to. And the next time we went back, we couldn't find it. But our
It
kids,
was Ruby Foods on Daiquiri Boulevard.
yeah,
Ruby Foods.
today, to this day, our kids still talk about it. It was the biggest thing. But they didn't just have Chinese food. In the next room, they had carved turkey, and it was wonderful. It was so disappointing to go back and not be able to find it. So, but yeah, just different restaurants, business cards, the Business Development Bureau of Expo, the Swiss Fondue Pot restaurant. They spent a whole $12. And again, you can see a bunch of the passport stamps. This became a big thing to get them all.
Yeah, $12 is a lot of money then.
Yeah, yeah. 6th day, they were going to the Chinese pavilion, and he even put his chopsticks out there. This is the thing I get a kick out of. I never realized the name of the restaurant there was the Golden Dragon Hall. So I just always thought of it as the restaurant that caused the building to catch on fire. Anyway, I just got a kick out of his little homemade titles there. Now we're gonna jump up.
Some of the pictographs on the upper right corner,
Oh
Oh,
yeah, yeah. Let's-
translations for them.
Yeah, the official guidebook has a whole section on the
yeah,
pictograms and the translations. Yeah.
some things have
Oh, those
changed.
and those are the original man and woman restroom
Yes.
signs.
Right.
You can see
Yeah.
how that they would be confusing. Yeah.
Oh yeah, even the wheelchair. I mean, look how much they've changed the design of that one. So I mean, some things you can pretty much understand. You know, stop. This is going to hurt. Here's a telephone. You know, here's a restaurant. Coffee. I don't know. This way to the marina.
Marina, yes.
Yeah. Truck route. I mean, this I can't make out some of these. Looks like a coat hanger.
Cloakroom.
Cloakroom. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it worked. You know. Okay.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Well,
just
they did have
interesting.
lockers because there's that one with the key in the suitcase on
Yeah.
the bottom. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Let me hop up to 1970 here.
Bill, I think if you weren't from Scotland, you could have gotten that really mixed up on the restroom signs to look like a man with a kilt.
Yeah. Right. So we're jumped up a few years. It's 1970 Man in His World. So you'll see they have changed some of the signage, taken off the Expo 67. In some of these later years, they did put bright colors here to tell you that it was Man in His World, but you see some changes. But you know, to me, as I mentioned, I left Expo 67 never thinking I'd see it again. I go back into college in 1969, not too far away from there. Drove up to Canada for the weekend. It's like, what the hell? The World's Fair is still here. I mean, I was just absolutely blown away. So I just loved going back to see Man in His World. But just like the Calder statue being moved, it was like, that's not the United States Pavilion. That, you know, to me, the very first thing I had to do every damn time was get a map. I mean, it was very bizarre. It was really great to go back and keep seeing it and seeing it and seeing it. So again, these all need restoration.
So it looks like what yeah, so the USSR is now like Luxembourg
Yeah.
was Belgium earlier.
Yeah. And this was the Canadian National, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right. Yeah, so the USSR and the United States both basically really downsized what they were doing. USSR wasn't there at all in '68 because they had taken their pavilion back to Russia. And when they saw the United States was continuing, they came and started leasing stuff. And I don't know if I ever told the story about getting in trouble with U.S. Customs because of the USSR pavilion. In about 69 or 70, we had gone over to Canada, Montreal, and my father's company had an office there. And it's funny things to remember. Wally Lowe was his office representative, and he took us up there and introduced us to the fine art of curling, which I had never done before. But he also introduced us to Applejack. And if you've never had it, you take basically apple cider, bury it in the ground. The cold basically causes all the alcohol, and it becomes very, very concentrated. So Wally sent us back to the United States with a bottle of Applejack, which was totally illegal to bring into the United States. Now I put it in the trunk of my car, and I piled a whole bunch of stuff from Man of His World on top of it. And we get to customs, and the guy says, "Open the trunk." And it's like, oh God, oh, he's going to find the Applejack. Oh, and the fireworks. We bought a large amount of fireworks in Canada. And he opens up the thing, and the very top of the pavilion thing there, all these pamphlets from the USSR pavilion. And he starts asking me, "Are you some sort of communist?" Oh God, no, sir. I said, I'm a World Fair fan and everything. And look, I've got the United States, I've got Luxembourg, and I've got all these others. And he started going through it, and I think, oh God, he keeps going through all the way through. He's going to get down to what's he going to hit first, the illegal alcohol or the fireworks? And he finally says, "You're not a communist." No, I'm not. But I was so scared to death of standing there thinking how much crap I have in the trunk I could get in trouble for. And luckily he got so diverted by these, he never went and found the other stuff. So funny the things you remember. Little picture of the Concorde here. Again, I'm not quite sure which pavilion this is in 1970.
I
Showing
think it's the Concorde ski, isn't it? The Russian version.
Oh, this could be. Yeah, this could. Yeah,
I'm looking at the lady in the bush on
Tupelo,
the other side. Yeah.
The one that it never actually flew, did it, Randy?
It flew. It crashed at the Paris Air Show.
Oh, that's right. That's right. It did. Yeah, the Paris Air Show, right?
And then it flew for a short period of time. Yeah.
Not in revenue service, though, did it?
No, in revenue, but strictly within Russia.
Oh, okay.
Or USSR. It never flew internationally that I know of, anyway.
All right.
So they were still getting good crowds in 1970.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I remember going back in 73 or so. When I was up there for my college, we had our graduation party,
I
and
can't find it.
can't find the book.
Show my friend Tony at the Getty, because it's in German, and
Right.
we talked about it, but I don't know what I've done with
The
it.
search goes on for the book. We'll have to find it.
Was this fair considered a financial success that they were able to keep running it for several more years?
Oh yeah, no, it was a success. So sorry, 1
I
second.
have 2 books in my night table from when I was a baby.
Oh,
One from 1948 and one from 1950.
oh, great. Okay, she's finding
I
my table.
I looked online, and that book was also published in an English version. And a lot of the text is in verse.
Oh, okay.
Max and Moritz?
Yes, it was done in English and verse. We'll find it.
I don't know where I put it, so I'll find it.
We'll find it.
Well,
Yeah.
back to the financial
What did the
success.
people in New
Expo
York
was not
think?
really a financial success. It was a success based on the attendance and all that, but it still lost a lot of money. Harold, correct?
What did the people in New York think when New York Fair was demolished and they were able to keep their fair running for several more years?
Well,
Yeah,
I
it was
think
also a vanity project of the mayor, Jean Drapeau, who
Yeah.
had instigated the expo, and he wanted the spirit of it to continue on for years afterwards, and he was still mayor for years afterwards.
Yeah, I think it was a combination that it lost money, but not as much as they feared. And then it was just like the Chicago World's Fair. We built it all. We might as well use it, because the cost of building the year 1 was massive. The cost of keeping it going year 2 was not as massive. But they constantly had battles with between the mayor and the city council about this was going to be absolutely the last year. We're done. They announced it. Oh, it's coming back. So it was always year to year was always iffy whether or not the next year was going to be there or not. I mean, and they had a strike out there. That's the way they had the strike, and the dolphins died, and yeah, there were all sorts of problems or issues.
Well, New York kept their word when they said last season, they weren't kidding.
Yeah, no, New York. Well, by the end of the 64, 65 World's Fair, they had lost so much money. There was no way that anybody wanted any part of a 66 season. So, and Robert Moses, he just wanted his park back, and so we're inside the French Pavilion. Going over here, the Indians of Canada and the giant whale out front. Thailand's still there.
Was France still France? The France Pavilion still France after Expo 67?
I believe it was. I'd have to go look at my chart online, but I believe it was. And you are here, giant map of the site. So it's kind of interesting that over here, this is not showing on the Expo map anymore because this is now no longer part of Man in His World. Over here was where Habitat was. You had Labyrinth. You had a whole bunch of other pavilions over here, Man in the Community, and some of these things.
International Broadcasting Center.
Right. But they're no longer part of Man in His World. So it's on the map. You can still see the train lines and bridges and everything. But basically, we just have the two sections of it here.
Did the train line still run though from the black section of the train line starting on next to the Place of Nations?
Yes,
It still
that was the
ran
new
over
terminal.
until
Yeah.
Iran, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I don't. You can see it has the name here for the island, but I don't think the train ran over here anymore.
No.
Yeah. But again, you can get a pretty good view of what was still here in 1970. And some I mentioned before, they took down the Union Jack and it became the Quebec Pavilion, or which the Montreal Pavilion, then Quebec, I believe. I believe the city ran it once, and then the province. I think that's right.
One year, I think the Armory Pavilion.
No, I think Armory was in one of the theme structures, I think. Again, we can go back to look at my chart. I put them all in there. Biosphere at the time, all the US flags were gone. And then we have some shots of just Montreal mixed in. I first looked at it and said, what the hell pavilion is this? Oh, yeah, it's just some shots of old Montreal.
It looks like the back lot at Warner Brothers to me.
It does. It looks like a fake one-dimensional thing, right?
Yeah.
More old Montreal. This again, I get a kick out of how things have changed. This was the steel pavilion, and over here is Canadian pulp and paper. I forget what it was in this particular motif here. The blue one, when it was Interpol, it went through about 6 different owners over the years. And stuff that they did not have in Expo. We didn't have a thing on cryogenics. Somebody just posted on Facebook early this week about this sculpture here, these rotating circles that would go at different speeds, and then periodically they would all latch together and figure out a different thing. Here it's the word resources. In others, it was a man, looked sort of like a Da Vinci thing that would go around. But it was very interesting. I probably got at least 4 different versions of this sculpture over the years as they updated the pavilions. USSR Bazaar, little gift shop there. Looks like Mexico here. Reminds me very much of the calendar that was outside the Mexico Pavilion at the 64 World's Fair. And with that, I think we'll say goodbye to Montreal for the day. So other than not finding Carol's book, I hope folks enjoyed going back to to Montreal, and it was warmer than it would be in Montreal today. So let me just see if I missed anything in the chats today. Oh, yeah, World Trade Center, the sky lobbies. Yeah, you're talking about the elevators. Yeah, I think World Trade Center was because an elevator would go, how many floors was the World Trade Center?
110.
110? Yeah, I
Mhm.
guess one elevator that went 110 floors would have been a hell of a cable. So, but what you call it, stopping halfway up. My dad's office was on the second half, so we'd have to go up, change over, go to the other elevator and go up. But
Call
I,
that the sky lobbies.
yeah, I remember those elevators moved like son of a bitch. Oh my God. You know, again, the things you remember going to my dad's office, and he was up in about 90, or he was way up there in the thing. But going to the back, you'd be in his office and you could watch the helicopters flying underneath you, which was very, very strange. But I remember going into the men's room and watching the water in the toilet sloshing from side to side because the building moved just enough with the winds that it was built to flex. And I just remember going to that thing, that's really weird. My father said, yeah, it took him about a year to get used to it. So, the things have changed. Kathy asks, are you going to go to Japan next year for the World's Fair? Thinking about it, I mentioned our son has been getting over long COVID, and I'd love to him to go over because I'd really love to go to what you call it, Ghibli World, Studio Ghibli Studio with him. And I'd also like to go to the World's Fair. Has anybody made plans to go to Osaka next year?
Kathy, are you going?
You're muted, Kathy.
There you
A
go.
bunch of friends, Disneyana people are planning to go. There's a cruise. I don't think I could fly that long. I'd love to. There's a 2-week cruise, 14 days to Tokyo one way, and it's like less than $2,000, but then you have to fly back. So a bunch of them are going to do that. But no, probably not.
We touched on it last week, Bill. Remember, they've got a weird reservation system going where you have to reserve specific days that you want to attend the fair. And then you're going to have to reserve for a lot of the pavilions specific times. And that's like maybe 3 days out. So I was going to go, but as a retired airline employee, I was going to use a pass to go, which of course you're like a very low standby priority. So I could not guarantee I'm going to be there on, June 3rd. I have to be very much more flexible. And I mean, I've every time I've gone to like 5 or 6 World's Fairs using an airline pass. And every time I've gotten on, no problem. But I really research it to make sure the loads will look good. I'm not, it's not oversold on that day or whatever. But I don't want to have to pay all this stuff in advance and then not get there.
Yeah, it would be a challenge. Yeah, I'd like to go. It's been a number of years since I've been to Japan, and the flight's not that bad, Kathy. You just keep drinking. No.
Yeah.
We were thinking about going too, but we changed our minds.
What's that?
We were thinking as going as well. To go to
Right.
Disney and then go to the World's Fair or the Expo, but our plans changed.
Yeah, I have not, for example, seen Tokyo Disney Seas. That was done after I stopped working in Tokyo, and I've heard. I mean, I've been to Tokyo Disneyland a number of times, but I've wanted to see Disney Seas. Our son is a big Studio Ghibli fan. I'd like to see that. So it is a long flight.
Yeah.
I did it twice in 1 week one time, so that was a lot of flying. We're getting into the Randy sort of style of flying when you go to Japan twice in 1 week.
Yeah.
Wow. At least we're closer than the East Coast people, so.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, when I went to Dubai for Expo 2020 in 2020, when did I go? 22, I guess. It was delayed because of the pandemic. I went nonstop on Emirates out of LA, and it was a little over 17 hours. But it was on that Airbus A380, so which I'm glad I did, because they're starting to phase them out.
Right.
So I'm glad I did that. Most airlines will upgrade airline employees if there's space in business, rarely to first, especially on Emirates. So they have those they're not even suites, they're like apartments on the upper deck of the A380. But Emirates doesn't do that. So I was in coach, but actually coach was very comfortable on that airplane, and it wasn't full. It was like maybe a little over half full. Food was, wonderful. It's not at all like a U.S. flying experience, but of course they also get subsidies from their government. So
Yeah, I still have 500,000 miles left in American, so I may look into doing something, with one of their partner airlines. So it's, like I said, I used to travel all the time, and I don't miss it now. Actually, I was saying, I did not win the lottery last night, but I was planning on all these trips I was going to take. So guess I have to win it on, is it Christmas Eve? They're going to have the next drawing. So when I get it, maybe I'll get my own 380 and I'll just see the world in style.
Apparently there's a mega millions ticket sold in our town.
Really?
Unfortunately, yeah, it was like 550 million for that one winner. There's 2 winners total, but I think that one winner was going to get 550 million or something. Something crazy.
Nice problem.
But hopefully you'll make it to Tokyo, Disney Sea. It is a beautiful park. It's very well.
No, we had friends that worked on it, and everybody just raves about it. So it's on the list. Carol's not been real crazy about going to Japan, but she likes Asian food, so we'll get her there. So,
Bill, is Disney Seas, is it next to Tokyo Disneyland, or is it?
yeah,
Okay, and did it follow the plan that was supposed to be in Long Beach much, or no?
I do not know, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I just know.
No,
Yeah,
the plan
from what I know,
was
it's
not like Long Beach. It's its own park that was designed, for that specific location.
Did you go over there and work on that, Brock?
I worked on it. I was actually got to visit the site because that's when I was transitioning out of Disney. My wife and I had, bought our B&B, and I was still commuting to Disney, but I was working on the Winnie the Pooh ride. And so when I went there, I was able to go over and see it in construction, but never saw it completed. But I did work on it. All the castle there, that's where Magellan's restaurant is, and that whole area. I worked on that, and then Journey to the Center of the Earth. I was a show producer on that part.
Oh, beautiful. It's amazing how well they utilize the land there. Like they're not like, but they're back to back, but you have to take a monorail it's not like California Adventure and Disneyland. It's not like you could just go across an Esplanade.
Right.
It's like they're back to back, but you would think you're so far away from one another.
Yeah, it's closer to the feeling of Walt Disney World as far as the separation, not quite as far as that, but like you said, it's not like Disneyland and California Adventure closeness.
Yeah.
Yeah, you remember Dave Mumford? He worked Disney Seas was the last thing he worked on, and he came back and would show pictures of what they were doing, and he was so enthusiastic about that park.
Yeah.
So he actually got sick over there, and then came back and unfortunately passed away shortly after. So, but he was just real gung ho on this. He was such an enthusiastic guy. It was hard not to share the enthusiasm with him. So, but yeah, hopefully we'll get over there next year. Do you know what months it runs, Randy? The Expo in Osaka?
Not exactly, no. But I think it's only 5 months. That's kind of been the trend for the last several World's Fairs. Rather than opening like, most World's Fairs used to, like New York and Montreal, open in April. They tend to open in May, like mid to late May, then close a little earlier maybe, which I think is unfortunate because you can, if you can get there in April, let's say, or like Expo.
April 13th to October 13th.
Oh, okay.
Oh, what is it again? Sorry.
April 13th to October 13th.
Oh, so it is, okay, so that is a full 6 months, isn't it? Okay. Because the other, like Expo, Shanghai and Hanover and what else, Milan and all, they were all 5 months. And you don't get the opportunity to have that month before kids get out of school, basically, to get there, before it just gets jammed with families and all that.
Yeah, I was also thinking it can get pretty warm over there too, so either the beginning or the end would have a lot of appeal.
Yeah, I went to Expo 92 in Seville. We went towards, it gets to be like 120 in Seville during
Yeah.
the summer. So we went in October thinking, the weather would be better. Well, it wasn't. It was still 120. And it finally caught on. The first month or two, we stayed at a bed and breakfast, and our host said, you should have come the first or second month. You could walk right into anything. They were fearing that they were not going to get anywhere near their predicted attendance. They ended up getting it, and they went over it a little bit. But I mean, it was all at the last 3 months, so everything was just packed full.
Yeah, no, it's on the list. I'll try to consider it. I have to find out more from you about that cruise, Kathy. Maybe we'll go do it in style. So
Yeah, right. We'll see.
Is
I know
that
Eric, Eric and Barbara, they booked it. Lewis, Boyce, Lewis.
right.
And I said I want to come back. Well, then Lewis found, it's a, what do they call it? It's one way, and then it's a trans whatever. But there's one in May coming this way, because they say it's better to do it coming this way because of all the stuff you're going to buy, and you just carry it on the boat. But that's coming this
repositioning, is
way
that what they
in
call it?
May. And so Eric's going to do both of them.
He's going to take the one trip over, stay there, and then come back.
Well, he's gonna fly over in May and fly back.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, wait. Fly over and boat back, and then it's in reverse. September 23rd, he's gonna take the boat. There's only 2 ports though, and they're both, before you get to Tokyo, they're both in Japan. So it's mostly days at sea, and the third will be Tokyo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I guess today's
Kathy, I'm sorry, do you know if it's strictly like for Disney employees or what is it, this cruise?
Oh no, it's a Royal Caribbean.
So anybody could book it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I might look at
But
that.
it was just an incredible. Lewis just did a 3-week on the same Royal Caribbean. It had like 5 or 6.
Oh, she froze.
Tokyo. It was incredible.
You froze there, Kathy.
So,
Didn't get most of that.
Yeah, there were like, Lewis just went to Tokyo by boat, and there were 5 or 6 ports in Alaska
Oh,
before you went to Tokyo. It was 3 weeks, and it was under $2,000. It was incredible. Yeah.
That's really cheap. Wow. Yeah, it's just the amount of time, but
Kathy, which cruise line again?
Royal Caribbean.
Royal Caribbean?
I think it's Royal. I think it is.
Okay. Oh,
I think that's the one that man just died on.
The one the one.
Oh, I'll ask.
Great. And I think, was it yesterday or today was the first sailing of the new Disney ship, the Treasure. So we'll have to get all the reports when everybody comes back from that and living in style. So, well, I hope everybody has a good holiday coming up. I think next Saturday I'll probably do Disneyland. How many people are going to be around next Saturday, whether it's worth doing or not?
I'll be here.
I should be, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll probably.
Have you ever done one on Pacific Ocean Park? Or do you have much information on it?
I don't have enough to do that. I only have maybe 2-3 dozen pictures of Pacific Ocean Park, and I have a little bit of film footage. I've tried talking to somebody that went there, took a whole bunch of pictures, and trying to get them to do it. And maybe next month, maybe next month, maybe next month. But yeah, Pacific Ocean Park. Carol was at POP. But it was gone by the time I got here.
If I remember correctly, the entrance was really amazing. But after you got in, it was just a regular amusement park.
Yeah, Brock, you're muted.
There we go. Sorry about that. Forgot I muted. I was coughing. I'm getting over a bronchial cold that I got who knows where. Anyway, yes, the entrance was, I just remember when I went there as a kid, it was just like, wow, this is really something. And then when you got in, it was just like a regular amusement park. I mean, you know, like the Pike down in Long Beach, just a bunch of rides and games that you play and stuff like that. But it wasn't, but that something about the entrance, and I don't remember what it was. It's been so long,
I think
but it was
it
pretty.
was an elevator. You got into an elevator type thing and went down. And when they let
Yeah,
you out, you were supposed to be under the sea, I guess.
yeah.
Sort of like an aqualator, huh?
Yeah.
They had that sky ride that was suspended over the water. Somebody posted a picture the other day somewhere on Facebook of they have one of the gondolas from that sky ride. They were tiny. I mean, really tiny.
Yeah, that actually shows up on a two-part episode, the opening part of The Man from U.N.C.L.E. And there's an evil Nazi scientist, and he's going to have this weapon that's going to wipe out life around the world. And Napoleon and Ilya have to follow him. He gets on one of those gondolas and it, goes off there, and they follow him. And then he gets on a speedboat and takes off. But I'm watching all this and going, gee, it would have been, a lot easier just to walk around the pier and be waiting for him at the other end. But it doesn't make for as good television. Somebody just posted, speaking of POP, there was some metal discs. If you went in, there was a curving wall, and they had these metal circles of different artwork of, basically patterns. And some guy said that he was there during the time that they were tearing down the park, and he paid some construction guy 25 or 50 bucks for them. And he said the guy used the wrecking ball like with fine finesse and knocked out the ridges to the wall. And he took these and they're big, about yay big. And he has these discs, he's had them at home all these years. And he said, I mean, he was just the right spot at the right time. And for the wrecking ball guy was probably hell was going to go in a dumpster. I'll make 50 bucks. I'll let you have it. But you just, nice to know that this parts of POP exist on this guy's patio out there, somewhere today. So, and maybe he's got a gondola. Maybe he's the guy with that. So
Could be.
you just think if you could have gone back to any of these World's Fairs that are being torn down with a stack of $50 bills in your hand, what you could have taken home, right?
Well, didn't New York auction a lot of the stuff off afterwards?
The auction catalog, most of the individual pavilions got rid of their own stuff and took care of it. There was an auction company that came in and said, I'll be the master guy to get rid of stuff. But what they were auctioning off was stuff like dishwashers and lights and projectors and stuff like that. There wasn't too many people that were auctioning off like the road signs or the park benches or anything like that. A lot of that was again mentioned, like Mike Pender would just take stuff home and put it in his garage. But there's a picture I have in one of the things of a giant escalator just lying in the fields, there, and somebody coming to pick up the escalator they bought from whatever pavilion. But yeah, the catalog, if you get it, it's really disappointing. It's not like the Bell System chairs. It's the Bell System movie projectors or the Bell System slide projectors. So in that catalog, well, I got to find a copy of it and stick it on my site. There wasn't the sort of stuff you'd salivate over unless you're really into industrial air conditioners and dishwashers. So, well, I wish everybody a happy holiday, and I will probably be here on Saturday. I'll send out something during the week as the week goes on. What was interesting, we've got a fairly small group now on most Saturdays, but if you look at on YouTube, these talks usually get about 100 people or so. So a lot of people can watch them in their leisure. So everybody online that's watching this on YouTube, you're going to have to tune in and find out, does Carol find the book or not? The trouble is our house looks sort of like a annex of the New York City Public Library. Do we have books? Oh man, do we have books? I took one of the bedrooms and turned it into a full-size library, floor to ceiling bookshelves, and okay, that filled up with books. Filled up the floor with books. Oh, let's put bookshelves in the guest room. Okay, those are filled up. I can put bookshelves in the closets in in the master bedroom. Oh, those filled up with books. So we got books. So Carol's book has got to be there somewhere, but it's literally the needle in the haystack. So Carol, let's buy another copy and pass it off. Okay. Hope everybody has a great holiday and that Santa treats you well, and that the 12 nights of Hanukkah get off to a great start, and we'll see you all in a week or so. How many?
Merry
Thanks, Bill.
Christmas,
Have a nice
everybody.
holiday, everybody.
I said
Bye-bye.
12.
Merry Christmas.
It's 8 nights?
Good holidays, everyone.
8 nights.
8 nights. Well, around here, every day is a holiday. So, okay. We'll see
See
you
you next
later.
Saturday. Bill.
Merry
Thank you,
Christmas.
Bill.
All right,
Bye.
bye.
Have a great presentation.
Thank you.